Welcome back to Between the Silos, where we talk about sales and marketing alignment and why so many companies struggle with it. Today, I'm joined by Daria Malin. As a leader who has built 4 successful brands, including co-founding an international nonprofit, Daria brings firsthand experience from both sales and marketing. Through her company, Boost Strategic Coaching, Daria specializes in corporate training for sales teams and also works as an advisor to a select handful of established businesses, owners, and sales leaders. Her focus is on helping professionals move beyond generic tactics to a strategic, high return plan. She empowers them to identify their ideal clients, prioritize the most impactful strategies, and connect effectively with those who should be buying from them. So, welcome, Daria.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Jennifer.
Yeah, I'm really excited to dive in here with you.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to have you on because you've worked with sales teams that are missing targets, getting bogged down in admin tasks instead of focusing on relationships and closing deals. I've seen a lot of these myself. I think
Mhm.
it's super
Uh-huh.
normal. So, I'm hoping you can share maybe some actionable techniques that you've seen really help sales teams boosting their effectiveness.
Yeah, you bet. Absolutely. All of us have found ourselves doing that. Like I'll organize my pen drawer instead of making that next sales call, right? And so all of us can get distracted by shiny objects or the easier things because the sales outreach and follow up and follow up and follow up is the hardest part. And as much as some people say, "Oh, I love cold calling," like I don't know that anybody truly loves cold calling, but we know that's the most important in a lot of our roles. So my first bit of advice is to start with the end in mind and actually think, what are the 3 rocks that are the most important ways to spend my time as a sales leader that are going to move the needle towards my goals, my sales goals, revenue goals, all those things. And so we start with the end in mind, we set those 3 goals. And usually, when you are a business leader, a sales leader, your top 3 things you should be spending your time on are usually prospecting, connecting with your markets, nurturing existing clients, whether you are their customer service person beyond that sale or just staying in touch with them to, renew business. And then the third is leveling up your skill set, like becoming a better salesperson, becoming a better leader. So if those are your 3 rocks. Remember that analogy of put your rocks into your jar first. Your jar is your week, and your rocks are your 3 most important tasks. If you put the rocks in there first, make sure those important tasks, crucial tasks are scheduled in first. Then you fill whatever's left with the pebbles and the sand, which are the admin tasks, the extra nice to haves. But if you let those tasks take over your week before you ever get to the 3 big rocks, your jar is full and there's no room for the 3 big rocks. You won't be able to get them in there. So make sure your top 3 rocks are on your schedule as a weekly repeating appointment with yourself. And then the rest you look to see, of course, other things need to be done, but we look to see what can be eliminated because it's just not necessary, automated, what technology can we use to make
Mhm.
some of those admin tasks easier, and then delegated. Be, brutal with your delegation of like, I know I like doing this thing, but it doesn't hit my 3 big rocks. Somebody else probably could and should do this for me.
I love that. Do you
Yeah.
see them being weighted in their order of like I love the 3 of those. I think that was
Yeah.
even really helpful to be like prospecting, nurturing, and then leveling up skills. I think a lot
Yeah.
of people miss that last one, to be honest.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I think they don't think that they maybe need to do that or don't put that on the list of the priorities.
Definitely, but I mean, how are we serving our clients if we're not continuing to grow as professionals? Everybody's industries are changing and evolving all the time. So if we want to serve our markets the best, we actually need to take responsibility to be on top of what's going on in the market, but also be the best that we can be in whatever service we deliver.
Yeah, I love that.
Mhm.
Do you see the weight of these the same? Should you spend
Oh,
equal
yeah.
amount of time prospecting and nurturing?
No, I mean, if you are a brand new sales rep, 90% of your time is on prospecting, right? Because that's all you have to do.
Right.
If you don't do that first, you don't actually get to do any of the other fun work that comes with gaining clients. And so, if you're brand new or if you're starting over again and you are in business development mode, then that's your number one. You should be spending hours and hours each week. Some of my early sales roles, it was like 40 calls a day or at least 20
Mhm.
meetings a week or what you pretty big numbers, and people
Mhm.
don't realize that that's what it takes to get things going. But then, of course, if you're an established professional and you have a really great client list and you just want to continue to bring in select new clients that fit your niche and who you want to work with, then maybe only 20% of your week will be spent on prospecting. A good chunk of the time will be spent on nurturing existing clients and looking for new opportunities with them and making sure they're taken care of. And then, of course, where are you going to fit in leveling up your skills? And I would say that no matter where you are in your career, you can always be leveling up your skills. So the weight depends on where you're at in your career and how much growth you want to see in sales.
I really like that. I like thinking about, like, the visual of the curve of that, right? Like, between
Mhm.
those buckets, like, if you're new, you have to be spending 90% of your time there, and then once you get those clients, you can move that number down and work more in that nurture, upsell, or retain. I think that's helpful. A lot of times when I see salespeople, like, they kinda wanna jump to step 2 and 3,
Yeah.
and it's like, you can't.
No.
You can't do that. It doesn't work. The math doesn't work.
No, and also if we do a ton of prospecting and then we gain a bunch of clients and then all we do is focus on them, then you've got
Mhm.
those peaks and valleys and all of a sudden you've done all the work for the clients you've gained and then you're starting from scratch. It's like pushing a stalled car again. So no matter where you are in your sales process or in your years in sales, continually prospecting, make that part of your every single week so that you just keep that car rolling and you just have to keep nudging it versus letting it stall and you're starting from scratch. Because most people, it's a long buying cycle for higher level services that people might sell. And so
Mhm.
you know that the second you start prospecting again, you don't have 50 sales this week. It's going to take a few months probably to get back up. And so even if you're as busy as you can be, if you even have 2 hours a week that's like set in stone in your calendar, that's business development time. You're planting seeds consistently so that you don't see like a drought in 6 months when your work has dried up.
I feel this one personally.
We've all done it. All of us have done it, I promise
Oh
you.
my
Yeah, we just
goodness.
get better and more disciplined over the years.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's we've been there. So, knowing that, do you have any particular stories where there has been maybe a sales rep that wasn't doing that? Obviously, it's
Mm.
deeply personal, so I think we all have that, but, like,
Yep.
maybe a simple adjustment that led to, like, a really big impact.
Yeah, so a lot of it is time management. I mean, I know that's kinda like a catchphrase, but when I mentioned the 3 big rocks, and the person that comes to mind is actually he was a senior financial advisor who had been in the practice for many years. But when he first came to me, for coaching, he had just a Google Doc or like a Word document form or a Word document that was 3 or 4 pages long just of tasks in no particular order. It was insane. His hair was on fire. He was already somebody who should be able to put his feet up on the weekends, take some holidays, but he couldn't get away for holidays. And he was in the weeds all the time. And he wasn't probably serving his existing clients as well as he wanted to be because he just couldn't get to them.
Mhm.
And his to-do list was overwhelming, and it just never seemed to be knocked down at all. But he happened to have an assistant who was twiddling her thumbs half of the time
Hmm.
because he was not prioritizing his time. And he also wanted to grow his practice. He actually was leveling up kind of one of his niche markets, wanted to do more work in this particular niche. It was farming, but he never had time to get out to prospect among the farm communities. And so we started to look at what the to-do list was and we started to be strict with okay, this is something that he specifically needs to do because that's client facing, that's high level planning. It needs to be him and the prospecting, right? And he was always a student. He was always in he has a growth mindset. So he was always taking some training. He was coaching with me and he was doing those kinds of things to level up. But he was trying to do all the things and juggle 500
Mhm.
ping pong balls in the air. And so we went through his to-do list. We slashed the things that needed to be eliminated, like nice to have, but each one of your clients, for example, does not need a call every quarter. You can decide A clients maybe get that, B clients maybe every 6 months, C clients maybe once a year, right? Automating. So we actually brought in project management software that was a simple software that his to-do list could be on there, but he could assign things to his assistant, or she could actually take notes and then put them in there herself. But then there was clarity and communication between the two of them on an ongoing basis about what she was doing. And then we really narrowed down what should be delegated. And things like, you as the lead financial advisor you don't need to be the one to chase your clients until they book that quarterly meeting or that annual meeting. That's actually something your admin can do really, really well and do more successfully, because your admin isn't flying by the seat of her pants. She's not between client meetings. And so introducing that project management and then really reassigning a whole bunch of things to her, and having him create an actual weekly schedule showing when he's prospecting or networking, when he has client meetings, and when he's doing his own growth, and then the necessary planning and high level, like, book work or paperwork that he had to do that nobody else could do. So by the time we were kind of finished that process, he could start his morning looking at his, like, with his coffee, looking in his project management software, see what she's working on, see what she'd checked off as done, and look at his week and feel like, "Oh, this is what I should be spending time on." And in fact, he just came back from a 2-week holiday in Europe, and it's
Oh,
probably the first one he's taken in years, because he actually found systems, processes, and control over his time.
okay, you teed me up so nicely, and I see this all the time too. In fact, I see it in my own work, in my
Mhm.
team's work is like,
Mhm.
okay, so it seems like we should know this, right? It seems like you should focus on the activities that only you can do. You should delegate
Mhm.
the activities that others can do. You should prioritize the biggest impact. And yet, that exercise you just explained of like the whole to-do list and
Yeah,
what do we slash, what do we delegate, what do we automate, what do we remove is so difficult for
it
people to
is.
do. And I don't know if it's like inside the bottle thing, right? Where like you can't see that or you
Yeah.
think you're the only one. So I don't like why isn't it easier for people to do that, to see that, to make those changes?
Well, first of all, I think we started with all these clients and we set up expectations with them that we will do all the things for them.
Mm,
And so there's a fear that if we start delegating and they start hearing from somebody other than their lead, that they're being passed along or they're not as important. And so that's a big one, I think. And so
mhm,
to mitigate that, you can explain or you can introduce your admin, like, and say, "This is somebody who is helping me so that I can be as efficient for you as possible. And she's going to be in a better, she'll be more able to be more responsive to you if you're calling in, and she can get to me to get the things done that I need to get for you, or she can take care of a lot of things herself, meaning you don't have to wait on me to get back to you. And it
mhm,
allows me to spend more time on, again, this financial planning on your plan and looking at your situation so that I'm on top of the planning that you've hired me to do. So you can introduce that person. If you feel like everyone is expecting to be able to text you, reach you at all hours, you can set those understandings and new expectations, saying, "This is why I have a team now." And people respect that if you're a
mm,
busy, successful professional, probably you have more clients than just them.
mhm,
And they actually like to see that you're being efficient and you're being smart with your time. Also, I would suggest that probably we worry way more about that than the clients even worry about. I think as long as the client's getting what they're needing, they're less likely to care if it's you or somebody on your team sending it to them. So it's sometimes in our own head. The other thing to get rid of is the idea that I'll do it better than everyone else.
mhm,
Perfectionism, right?
mhm,
So it's true that somebody you hire may do it 80% as well as you, but done is better than perfect.
100%.
So you can decide which things have to be perfect and have to go across your desk and your eyeballs on it before you send it out. There are going to be certain things that that's the case. But there are other things that if they word an email a little differently than you, that's probably okay, and it could probably go out without you looking at it. So done is better than perfect. Getting rid of that perfectionism feeling and understanding that you'll do a better job of those high level big rocks if you allow some of the pebbles and sand to be taken care of by somebody else almost as well as you.
Yep.
Mhm.
Totally agree. And no one will likely know the difference.
Nope.
So
Exactly. Again, we make a lot of this up in our head. The rest of
mhm.
the public doesn't care as much as we think they do about these little things, right?
When you do this exercise with, executives or people, are they having, like, a finger gripping experience? Like, "No, I have to hold that."
For a while, definitely. But then what we talk about is, why does this matter? What would
Mm,
it mean for you and your life and your family life and your balance if we could figure this out and find you 5 hours to yourself a week?
Good.
So, thinking to themselves about why this actually is important in their life, that is a big aha moment, because it's not just an exercise to do another exercise
Oh,
or planning day. It's like, I want a better life balance. I want to enjoy this better. I don't want to be more successful. So they can explain to themselves why this matters. I sometimes even have groups write as part of their like worksheets, if we do this in a group workshop, write a letter to themselves, as if it was a year from now, and say, I'm so happy. It's the end of this year and this is what my life looks like right now, and then hide it somewhere and then remind themselves to read it in a year, and they can see how close they've gotten to it. But it's like, I have more time for friends, I am working out again, I read books again, whatever those things are.
sounds
And when
good.
we do a goal setting session like this, I encourage people to, instead of saying, I'm setting these goals, say, I am making these promises to myself.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, several things you said there. I love the promises versus goals. It's like, no,
Mhm.
I'm not. I'm gonna try. I hate when people
Mhm.
go like, I'm gonna try. No, no, you're already giving yourself an out.
Yeah.
And
100%.
yeah, and like the what it means for you if you figure it out. I really like that too. Of like letting go a little bit.
Mhm.
Letting go of all of the but I can't, and here's why it won't work, and all
Mhm.
of that. Of like, well, what does it mean for you?
Yeah, and I mean, if you're frustrated and if you've come to like a session about time management, probably something's not working. So
Mhm.
continuing to do things the way you've always done them and expecting a different result is futile. So we are here for a reason. And so again, you can continue to do it the way you've been doing it, but then you'll feel the same way that you do right now.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Kind of piggybacking on that, I'm hoping you can tell us a little bit. You recently wrote an ebook, and you have some nuggets in there about self-determination theory. So, and how that applies to autonomy and competence, and
Mhm.
empowering salespeople. And I think we're kind of heading into that route,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
tell
Well, it's
me a
about
little bit about that.
yeah, you bet. Like, just we were talking about what motivates you, right? So self-determination theory is a theory that explains that people essentially are happiest and most motivated when they feel that they have control over their own lives. They feel good at what they're doing, spending their time on, and they feel connected to others. So it suggests that things like rewards and punishments from the outside aren't as powerful as our own inner drivers to do things that we truly enjoy or believe in. So the theory was created by two psychologists, Edward Deci and Richard Ryan, and we use it. We apply it to our sales training and coaching just to develop that deeper motivation. So essentially, build elements into our sales process, our business, and our culture to go beyond kind of those external motivators like money and perks, and deep dive into what could truly motivate people and add more intrinsic motivation. And so, like you said, the three elements of building that deeper motivation are autonomy, competence, and relatedness. So, quickly, having autonomy when you hire a salesperson, and I noticed one of your LinkedIn posts you were talking about, like, how much do I micromanage my team member
Mhm.
versus letting them go off and undo their own thing? And so we recommend starting with a really structured autonomy. So giving those salespeople the freedom to make choices and decisions within their roles, but also provide kind of clear guidelines and accountability measures. And so we track things like how many meetings you're having each week, and how many follow-ups and things like that. And we give them even, here's how you reach out, here's the follow-up process. So give them all of that so they feel like they know what they're doing, but then don't look at every step they're taking. You have
Mhm.
measurements in place that you can review together and course correct, but they
Mhm.
also get a chance to have some freedom within there. And I mentioned in your, I think, that LinkedIn post, first couple times you're teaching somebody how to cook, you're going to show them how to make the spaghetti and sauce, and then you're going to do it with them. So you're going to do some calls together, and then you're going to let them cook on their own. So that's autonomy. Competence, that's the biggest one where we step in, because if people don't feel competent in their role, they are not going to be super motivated. So giving them a week or two of sales training and then sending them out to the wolves, they're really going to struggle with motivation because they feel like they are totally clueless. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they'd say if somebody has an objection, right?
Yeah.
So making sure that they have that initial really supportive training, but then also ongoing training because sales is not like a not a science. There's so many nuances to it. And so as your team members get more competent and they have more experience, challenge them with new training. Be like, now that you have the cold calling down, we're going to teach you how to actually leverage your network and build champions to start getting referrals because you have credibility in the market. Like, there's always new things that can build competence and make people feel excited to go out and try new things because they have the tools required to succeed and they'll see the results faster.
I like that. I don't think we do that enough here, and so that's
Right.
it's a really good, nugget, right? Like,
Yeah.
you do the structured autonomy, and you feel like you give them the training, but the, like, ongoing and
Yeah.
the road mapping of ongoing training is
Yeah.
something I think once you're like, "Oh, you got it now,"
Mhm.
you don't, revisit that, so that's really good insight.
Well, and your best people are gonna be the ones that also have the growth mindset. They wanna keep getting better, and
Mhm.
often I am surprised, I shouldn't be anymore, but when the most senior professionals in a group call that we are coaching are most excited about the tools. They've been doing their
Mhm.
thing for 20 to 30 years.
Mhm.
But for example, and for me, when I was in advertising sales, I was like, "I have a good reputation. I have happy clients. Why don't I get referrals? I don't know how to make it so that the people that think I'm great actually
Mhm.
know that I'm looking for referrals, or how do I set
Right.
that up?" And so it's the people who have kind of feel like they've outgrown the, like, pounding the pavement cold calling. They want new tools because they do have the reputation that they can leverage and build the champion kind of system and start to bring in sort of those repeat customers coming from trusted sources, but they don't know how to do that. And so that's an example of training that your senior people would be all over because they're like, good, I'm
Mhm.
fine. Like, finally, let's get away from the cold calling as our main source of finding new prospects, and let's leverage the good reputation I have. So that's a good example of ongoing training, making people feel like also that they're being challenged where they are, because if they feel stagnant there and there's no more that you can teach them or that you bring in for them to learn, they're
Mhm.
going to go looking elsewhere if they're great because they want a new challenge.
Absolutely.
So that's competence. And then relatedness. That's the last of the three elements that we want to work in under that self determination theory, understanding of motivation. So, relatedness is when team members are more motivated because they feel a sense of connection and belonging. So, that can be fostered by that encouraging of open communication in team meetings, team building activities, recognition of individual and collective achievements as they go. I remember a sales rep recently said, I don't need more money. I'm actually making enough money. And they keep adding bonuses, but they never say good job. They never
Mm.
say thank you for growing your business year after year after year. This is like, you are a rock star and it means a lot. They just say, here's more money, right? And so
Uh-huh.
that's an external motivator that can only take you so far. So relatedness means um, encouraging people to feel like they belong within the organization, bringing them like they're, giving them credit where credit is due.
Mhm.
And the other thing I'll mention is that often with groups, you can encourage them to be accountability
Mhm.
buddies for each other so that they actually challenge each other to grow and challenge themselves.
I love that.
Hmm.
Before we move into hot seat, if
Yeah.
you're a leader, how do you keep them focused on these things?
So, yeah, I mean, the first one is actionable training. So, training where they can actually do something right away in their day to day work. So, not just shelf help where they hear something at a high level and they put it on the shelf and never use it. So, think about when you're bringing in training or building training internally, what are some quick wins that they can have, like a action plan worksheet or a quiz, and something that they can try in their next meeting with a prospect. Again, public recognition, that's a really quick win that you can experience for yourself as a leader, and it will be a morale booster and reinforce that positive behavior. And then trust building within the team. So that structured autonomy and seeing all of that can reduce the micromanagement. So actually, I guess that's the point, right? Is to actively make sure you're not micromanaging and back up more and more as you see that they are competent and that they're doing their job. And then long term fixes, that overall growth mindset, encouraging your people to be lifelong learners, either with things that you are bringing in, even like bringing in books, then challenging them. This is
Mm.
a new leadership book or a business book that we are all going to read, or, just new ideas for them so that they're always growing. Collaborative culture, that's a long-term play as well. So just those social bonds, sense of belonging, all of those kinds of things. Mentorship programs, team building activities as a regular practice, not just like a once every few years good idea.
Yeah.
And then longer term too, considering personalized learning. So having different opportunities to learn and allow your team members to choose the path that they want to go. We find when we offer training on topics for big teams nationally, I mean, not everyone needs that exact thing right now. But then when we repeat that topic 2 years later, other team members join because they go, oh, now I want to leverage my network and build champions. I wasn't ready for that 2 years ago. So let them kind of personalize their learning path where possible.
I really like that. All
Hmm.
of these I think are really great. So,
Hmm.
thank you for all
Yeah.
of that. I think there's a lot of like actionable nuggets people can take in here to like kind of help get rid of the noise
Yes.
and reprioritize so that their sales teams are really doing those like top revenue generating activities and
Yep.
like you said at the beginning of the call, right, like it's you want to almost do anything, and so kind of creating that structure of like here's the most important, here's where to spend it, and here's how to keep growing that.
Yes. Yeah. Good.
Wonderful, thank you, love that. Okay, we're gonna shift to hot seat.
You bet.
All right, here we go.
I'm ready.
So you've been in both marketing and sales. So what is one piece of feedback you tell a marketing department they need to hear from sales and vice versa?
So we have to remember that the salespeople are in front of our buyers and they are
Wonderful.
hearing in the buyer's words what problems the buyers have and what the buyer thinks that they are looking for a solution for. If we're just writing marketing messaging kind of in our own bubble, but not listening to ongoing feedback from the market, we may end up being off track with the messaging. And sometimes we think we're selling a certain thing to people, but they actually believe that they're buying something different. And I remember noticing that when I was first messaging, when I was doing just private coaching years ago. And I used to talk about how I'll help you with your marketing strategy and your sales strategy, and I'll make those two things work together and stuff like that. The first time I got a chance to get feedback from a group I taught, the words they used to describe what they bought from me was clarity and confidence in their sales and marketing
Mm.
approach and strategy.
Mhm.
Those 2 words had never occurred to me before because 'cause I'm inside my own little bubble.
Yep.
And so, listening to the actual customers who were buying from me, I changed my marketing messaging and I started to explain what we offer as ultimately clarity and confidence in your sales and marketing strategy and deliverables, right? And so, listen, marketing department actually communicating with the sales professionals to find out what are the salespeople hearing and
Mhm.
what are the customers actually asking for. And then in reverse, salespeople when they're trying to communicate, they can be asking marketing to support them to build messaging for specific ideal clients so that they're explaining what they sell in an eloquent way that is impactful. Because I always say your brand is the story that's being told about you when you're not in the room.
Mhm.
And if everybody's saying a different version of that story, your message gets muddled in the market. So if sales can listen to marketing and actually say the words similarly to the way that marketing is saying them, you're not going to confuse the audience. And again, like I said, salespeople feeding what they're learning up to marketing, it ends up being just a more cohesive and impactful message said the same way across the board.
So powerful. So powerful.
Mhm.
Question two: what's a go-to tool or practice you recommend to every team?
I always challenge every single sales professional to I start with who their ideal clients are. That goes deeper than the avatar or client type
Mhm.
that the marketing department will be working with.
Mhm.
For you as an individual salesperson in your market with your connections and circles, who are your ideal clients? Who are your target markets? Yourself personally. And sometimes that will be your own business community or your cultural group or your neighborhood, depending what you're selling, or the farm community because you happen to live in the prairies or whatever it is. So, starting with your niche markets, your target markets, and then from there, you can decide what to say to them. You can work with marketing on messaging to that specific audience. From there, you figure out how those people want to be engaged with. So it's not always just an ad campaign. Sometimes it's networking. Sometimes it's being part of organizations within that niche. It's showing up in person. It's making phone calls. Every niche is gonna have a different kind of way that they want to be connected with from salespeople. So, not one size fits all. And so, if we can start with who are the target audiences that we are specifically trying to serve as the salespeople, that helps us to do a better job of knowing what to say to them and where to go to find them online and off.
Love it. And
Mhm,
I like how you said the deeper part of that, that was really important, I think.
mhm. Yeah.
Okay, last one. If you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about how companies approach sales, what would it be?
Okay, I'm gonna cheat a little and say
Okay.
3 things, but they're all related to the self-determination theory. So the
Okay.
first, of course, with the giving them structure and repeatable systems and frameworks so that they have a clear path, so that they can be they have autonomy, but they know exactly what their activities should be every week, how to track those things, how to follow up, and how to be accountable to the goals that they've set for themselves or that you've set with them. Second, giving them ongoing training and support to continually increase their competence. But then the third one, and I kind of am on a soapbox about this a little bit, that connectivity, not only within your team, but connecting as humans with other humans in your network. We are not AI robots.
Right.
And I'm finding that people are starting to forget that being face to face whenever possible in real life with our network and champions and prospects is still a winning move wherever possible. I know that isn't always possible. And I am not saying don't use tech. I mean, obviously, we're using AI to make things easier, faster, more organized. But I love that we can use tech to be more organized and efficient because that actually allows us more time to be out having meaningful connections and conversations with people. So my biggest takeaway is don't forget that we're humans doing business with humans. Don't replace real life, even phone calls or stop ins or networking opportunities with just direct messages and emails.
I am totally hearing the same thing, where there's like a resurgence of connection, events, people being with people, which
Yeah.
I love. I think it's what we need in our life. So
Yeah, we got away from that, and for a little while, we had to figure out digital
Mhm.
and virtual ways, absolutely, but there's a reason that it's always been the tried and true way to build genuine business relationships, and so we really just need to just remind our teams that this is still a priority.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. So thank you so much for joining me today. I know you have a lot of really practical strategies and tips, and you have this wonderful ebook, which we will make sure to include. So I really appreciate all of your insight today, Daria.
Yeah, thanks for the chat, I appreciated being here.
And for all the listeners out there, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you always know when a new episode lands. Until then, don't forget the best things to happen to your team will always happen between the silos.